You know that quote, the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing? Something like that. And that, well, I start with that because that's about what sums up what we're going to go through in this segment. You have people who know better, surely know better, but choose for financial reasons, for political reasons, for fear reasons, to do nothing or to support the bad. Now, I wouldn't describe Kevin McCarthy in a general sense as a good person, right? But that quote is pointing to the idea that it's not just the dangerous ideas and folks who need to be called out and who allow for destructive outcomes, but for the less dangerous ones or the not dangerous ones to be supportive, to enable such behavior. And that's what we've seen in the Republican Party in so many ways. Kevin McCarthy, as you're going to hear anti-Trump Republican Sarah Longwell point out in this exchange at some New York Times event, he was the person who, when everyone thought Trump's political career was over and he had been shamefully sent off to Mar-a-Lago after the January 6th insurrection, after leaving office on January 20th, and then Kevin McCarthy chose to go down and resurrect him, as Sarah Longwell will say. Watch this back and forth. It's really interesting. This is how Kevin McCarthy deserves to be spoken to every time he goes anywhere. While you watch, please do click that subscribe button.
Right. Even if you go to the poll and not Republican or Democrat, I think it was maybe 3 months ago, independents believe the greatest threat to democracy was Joe Biden getting reelected. And that was independents, not Republican or Democrat. So what you say, you can believe, but that's not what the American public believes.
There's a difference between what the American people think and what's true. Right. So the idea, I don't know why, I don't know what we are, why the defense of Merrick Garland, sure. Donald Trump lied about an election being stolen and then sicked a mob on the Capitol. And it's funny that you roll your eyes at this, Kevin, because you're the one who went down and resurrected him. You want to know what happened just now in the 2024 election? Is we elected the most dangerous, criminal human being, corrupt human being that America has ever elected. And Kevin, you helped him. You're the one who went and got him after.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
you're welcome.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Okay.
And in doing so, you enabled this. And so Joe Biden, the idea that Joe Biden's Justice Department is the problem here, as opposed to Donald Trump, and the fact that he tried to overturn an election and sick people on the Capitol, is, I don't know if people let you get away with that in rooms all the time, but you should never be allowed to get away with it.
So you do realize President Trump won the popular vote.
I do.
And then Jason Miller jumps in to protect Kevin as Kevin's going, I'm having a very hard time. This is funny. And goes, you do realize Trump won the popular vote. That's their new thing. Don't address the argument, just cite that he won. Okay, he won. Not a majority of the popular vote, but he did win a plurality. Okay. So, in that case, he's now right about everything, according to them. What happened when Biden wins the popular vote by a larger margin in 2020? Did that mean he was right about everything then? No, so you still should create logical arguments. Because if we win next time around, you're not going to like us saying the only thing that matters is that we won and we don't have to defend any of our positions anymore, which is not even what we did when we did win. But anyways, Kevin McCarthy there is absolutely the exact type of person that quote was talking about that I started with. He is someone who, after January 6th, was saying the bluntest of things about how dangerous and terrible Trump was. And then, like everyone, flipped around for their own political gain. And the fact that Sarah Longwell so brilliantly, and credit to her, because that's difficult in a room with a bunch of right-wingers having to articulate that, saying you should not get away with doing this. And the point she's making is that he says, I'm not familiar with the polling that he's talking about, but it totally could be the case that for some reason independents said, I think Biden's the greater threat to democracy, just because we're in a whacked situation right now. And that can't be the justification for convincing them of it. We talk about this with the election. Often MAGA folks will say it's okay, specifically MAGA leaders like a Marjorie Greene or a Trump will say it's okay that I believe the election was stolen because a lot of people believe it. But they're the ones who convinced them to believe that. Same thing here. Kevin McCarthy can't say, oh, people don't believe, or enough people don't believe that Trump's a threat to democracy, so that's why it's okay for me not to believe that. But you're one of the people who have convinced a lot of people that it's okay or it makes sense to believe that. Because they see former Speaker of the House, not known as the furthest right-wing person necessarily, and this establishment figure saying Trump's fine. So great job with Sarah Longwell. You have a similar phenomenon with Mitch McConnell. He's now saying, quote, we're in a very, very dangerous world right now, reminiscent of before World War II. Even the slogan is the same, America First. That was what they said in the 30s. Now, before MAGA goes, oh, they're saying he's Hitler, which is their new reaction to everything. My face is really red now. That's not what we're saying. That's not even what Mitch McConnell's saying. He's saying, maybe history informs us about things. God forbid we learn from history without saying that we're in the exact situation we were before. But Mitch McConnell voted against convicting Trump for the January 6th stuff in the impeachment trial. These are the people who history will be nauseated by. The people who know better. And at some point, either after the fact or before they flipped around or both, they correctly assessed how wrong it would be to support Trump, and then they did it. On the subject of January 6th, by the way, we've been waiting for this report. Not we so much, because I already knew this, but MAGA. DOJ finds no evidence that there were any undercover FBI agents at January 6th riot, which honestly, you know what's weird? I think it would not be surprising if there were, right? Not in it's a Fedsurrection, a fake FBI plot to make Trump supporters look bad, as Trump supporters have told me for years now. No, but instead that when a lot of people are gathering and Trump is explicitly holding a rally while the certification's going on to provoke people about the certification, I think it would make sense to have some people undercover in the crowd to sort of monitor what's going on. Not that they're going to provoke people. That would be wrong. But even after we specifically investigate that claim, the apologia for January 6th falls flat. You also have this headline: several House Republicans, including James Comer, are open to imprisoning January 6th committee members. Several House Republicans, including Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer, are open to seeing their colleagues who served on the January 6th Select Committee imprisoned. And this talks about how Trump said in that Meet the Press interview that Liz Cheney should be in jail for her participation in the congressional investigation into Trump's attempts to block the peaceful transfer of power. And now all the Republicans are falling in line. Now, my tone on this is because we've become used to it. It's so normal, but don't normalize it. Does that make sense? This is our new normal, but we can't act like it should be. With politicians, James Comer says, if you've used a congressional committee and you've lied and tried to set people up and falsely imprison people, then you should be held accountable. If they broke the law, then they should be in prison, says Tim Burchett. No way. Lauren Boebert also thinks that's logical. So you get the point. Republicans will defend with lies. It's not true that Liz Cheney tried to falsely imprison people or lied or anything like that during her role in the committee, but they're all going to fall in line no matter how outrageous the claim from Trump is. One other thing from the same event that we watched a clip from already. This is CNN contributor Van Jones.
In the Philly suburbs. And I'm telling you, we are way off. The entire political class is way off. First of all, digital is a new door knocking. Mm-hmm. You got to understand that. We were laughing our butts off at Donald Trump for suspending his door knocking campaign and letting Charlie Kirk and Elon do a bunch of stuff online. Mm-hmm. We said, these guys are idiots. These guys are stupid. Then you start knocking on these doors. You know what people come to the door with? Their phone in their hand. They're in a 24-hour digital surround sound that has nothing to do with CNN, has nothing to do with any stuff that we do. I got a teenage son. I asked him, who are the most influential people in the world today? I'm thinking to myself, he's going to say Barack Obama, Oprah Winfrey, Jay-Z. He says, Kai Cent, Aiden Ross, Jinxie, and Sketch. I don't know who he's talking about. I said, what platforms are you on? He goes, I'm on Twitch, Kick, and Rumble. I said, that sounds like you need to go to the hospital. What are these platforms? I'm telling you guys, the mainstream has become fringe, and the fringe has become mainstream. There are platforms, there are people out there that are getting 14 million streams, and we're on cable news getting 1 or 2 million. And so there's...
Yep. We got to come to terms with it. We have to. It's a part of why I'm doing this online. But we're missing out on a lot of people. We are. Because we don't have, the right-wingers talk a lot about how big institutions and the mainstream is captured by the left. And in a sense, I know what they're talking about, academia being a much more typically left-wing set of institutions, and Hollywood, they'll point to, most actors and actresses probably more liberal. And so I get the point. I'm not going to go, what are you talking about? But number one, they'll talk about mainstream media being liberal, but the most prominent, influential, and the highest ratings cable news channel is Fox News. So the biggest mainstream outlet in that sense is a right-wing outlet that does all-out propaganda for Trump. So that's also a little misunderstanding. But again, I get they mean the legacy outlets like the New York Times and MSNBC, not MSNBC is legacy? I don't know. CNN, those sorts of things. But even those have all these issues where I get that they're not super hyped to align with Trump, but they also don't do nearly enough in favor of our democracy. But all that aside, even if that were true, the mainstream institutions and outlets are becoming less relevant to a lot of the younger folk, the youths. And he says Kai Cent, I think, Kai Cent. You have a lot of these figures who aren't political figures, but then in the case of a lot of the online podcasting world and stuff, as we keep coming back to, we don't do as good of a job of being present in pop culture spaces that are newly emerging, like a lot of these online bubbles, and articulating pro-democracy, my version of liberal, right? Whatever you would classify that as, policies and ideas, but in settings where it's not a political setting. Because obviously, if you're going and looking for a political show, you're already so much more engaged than the voters that are really determining the election. And so a lot of the people who just heard a couple things about Trump and heard him on a podcast and they voted for him are the ones that I'm more thinking about. And Van Jones is making an excellent point that we need to reach out online in those spaces more, which I've been trying to do lately, going on numerous different shows for that reason. Let me know what you thought in the comments. Support the show. Get the members only bonus show by clicking that join button below.